My name's Alan Stillings. Right now, I am the code enforcement officer and building inspector for the city of Ozark, Missouri. I grew up in a small town where everybody, it's almost kind of like Groundhog Day, where everybody does the same thing over and over. They have the same job. You go to church on Sunday. I'd gotten married when I was 23 or 24, and that ended when I was 26. Served my country for 8 years in the military. I met somebody and lived in California for 8 years after the military. I got married again in 2015. 2020 came around. My uncle had just passed away. I came home and spent some time with my family. Flew back to California. The second day I was at home, my ex-wife, I should say, literally looked. She had left the house, and there was a notebook on the table that said, "Our marriage is over." What do you say to that? You say, "My marriage is over," more or less. I remember yelling. I remember being on just mad. I was just angry, and I said, "Why, God, would you let this happen? Why would you do this to me?" And he came in with such a realization, and I remember hitting the ground, and I'm crying. There's tears running down my face, and I'm broken. And I just remember being on my knees, and I said, "Lord, what do you want me to? What do I need to do? What am I supposed to do now?" Go home. It's time. Just go home. You gotta leave this place. But I just remember him saying, "Go home." So January of 2021, got all my stuff packed up in my truck. I drove from California to Missouri, and I started my life here. My ex-wife calls me one day, and I'm driving back home, and I'm on a long trip back, and she tells me that somebody had just died that was close to me. And then, of course, she was telling me all this stuff about our divorce and how we were going to have to do this, and it all just came crashing down on me. And I felt all this, just all of it coming back, and the anger and the pain of going through that time frame. It's like it put me right back in that house right after she said that we were done and our divorce was going to happen. I didn't know what to think. I didn't know what to feel. I just had all this just pain and anger, and I was like, you know what? I just need to pull over. I need to drink. And then I had a few more, and before I knew it, I had a few more than that, and then decided, well, let's just get back in my truck and drive. And got pulled over. A cop came up behind me, pulled me over, and I got issued a DUI. So then from there, that's where I crashed. I kind of hit rock bottom. But I went to church a few Sundays later, and they started singing, and I broke down. I crashed, and I'm weeping, and I'm just saying, "Lord, I'm done. I'm done doing this myself." The weight of the world was off my shoulders for the first time, and I really saw what God wanted to do in my life. About November, December, that I first came to North Point Church in Nixa, and they were talking about next steps. But the day of my baptism happened. I remember Brandon puts me under the water, and I get up and I stand up, and I literally shouted in that church. I think people outside the church could hear me. That's how loud it was. People have come to get baptized and literally came into the church because of the reaction. They said, "I want that." They want that. And I said, "Yeah, you do. You absolutely want that in your life. You want this feeling that I have in your heart and in your life every single day." And since that point, I've joined the worship team. I love singing. I love the fact that I can use whatever gifts that God has given me to praise Him and give Him the glory for everything that's happened, because that's the only way it's happened. If I had control of my life, I'd be not here. I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be alive if He hadn't saved me. So I thank him because he is the only reason why I'm sitting right here where I'm at right now.
I'm Kevin Howard. This is my wife, Denise. We have been coming to North Point for approximately 2 years. And one of the things I think that really resonated with us was every time you come to a service, there is the question of what's your next step.
And so when we came here, I think when people come through the doors, they're looking for certain things, and we were looking to connect right away. And I kind of found myself in that, I'm not sure, but we did take that next step and have been really blessed through looking at the opportunities here. It seemed like working with the youth was a good option for us. We love working with young people. It keeps us young a little bit. Wednesday night is like the best night of the week.
Kids just want a relationship with adults, and they want to be loved and they want to be known. They want to feel like they matter.
So working with the kids and getting to be with them and getting to know them and having community with the adults and the kids that are here, it's a highlight.
I deal with 6th and 7th grade boys, and their energy level is off the charts. So it's there's a lot of fun being had with some God talk squeezed in, but it does resonate, and they do get something out of that. So it's tremendous.
I think leading the younger generation and trying to provide a good example for them is really critical. As they get older, they're making decisions that they need to kind of run past people. They need to know they have someone solid and stable that they can ask in an environment where they feel safe. Sometimes it's small stuff. Sometimes it's, I don't know what to do about this grade that I have in this class. Sometimes it's about a boyfriend or a girlfriend or just a broken heart. But they need to have a place where they can go that they know that there are stable adults that can listen and provide assurance and pray over them, pray with them, make them feel like it's all okay because God's got this.
And a lot of the times it's not, because we're not counselors by any stretch, it's not what we say, but it's in the way that we may say it, or just the example that we're trying to set for them, that they observe and see over time. You're not somebody who's acting or pretending to be, my friend. You're actually my friend.
I would just encourage anyone that's even thinking that they might be interested, that it's definitely a place to connect with people and really feel like your cup is full.
I am on the worship team at the Nixa campus, and just the community I've built with others that serve and the connections. They're deep and they're awesome and people I can rely on. My daughter is, she's a miracle baby. So we were told that it was gonna be a struggle for us to get pregnant on our own, and that we were going to need some medical help in that field. And the Lord made a way, and my daughter is here. I have kind of always dealt with anxiety to some extent. Usually things I could get through, talk myself through, very few panic attacks. But then about 6 months ago, postpartum really hit home, and I found myself just in that constant fight or flight. My heart was always racing. I wasn't sleeping well at night. I lost appetite. I just got to the point in my journey that it was going to be easier not to be here anymore. than it would be to continue feeling the way I was feeling. So in that, I was having weekly panic attacks, and things I'd been able to do to cope previously were not working any longer. I was spending time in prayer and things that I'm like, okay, if I just do this, I'll get through it. And when your hormones and things are adjusting postpartum, it's not just something you can just get through, because your body is kind of playing against you at that point. So I had the open conversation with my husband and my best friend about the thoughts I was feeling, and not so much wanting to die, but to not feel the way I was feeling. I just knew that if I was going to be the mom that she deserved, that I needed to be here, first of all, and that I couldn't be the mom that she deserved if I was in my current state. So I just said, I have to let someone know. I've grown up in church, and a lot of times people will just think that, oh, if I pray hard enough, that this will go away. And so my point in my faith was, I didn't feel like just praying about it was going to get me kind of to the other side, and that I really felt that God was calling me as like, you have to take some steps and you have to do some work. So I had called my doctor and was open with him. I ended up spending a few hours at Cox North, just getting that separation and getting that little bit of a break that I needed mentally, and started on some medication that very day. Since then, I've kept up with my doctor and been adjusted on some medication. I'm also in therapy as well, which has been tremendous for my mental health and using coping skills. I think that sometimes those are good body signals and can be good. The fight or flight mechanism is a great one when it's for fight or flight, but not a great one when you're trying to sleep at 2 o'clock in the morning. So I know that some of those signals are there because that's how we were created. So it's a lot to unload on people, and I'm in the middle of 7 children, so I unloaded on all of them, and all my siblings and my parents. Having more people pray for you and check in on you has been super powerful for me. So all my family knows the struggles I've been going through. For me, I feel like it strengthened my faith. And it didn't mean I had less faith because I got help. And I know that my faith is going to grow in a place where I can be healthy and open and honest. And if that means I need to go talk to somebody once every other week to get some coping skills, and if I need to take some medication to regulate the things going on in my body, to be, number one, my best self for me, but then also for my family and for my community, because if I'm not feeling my best self, I'm not a help to others. It can change my dynamic of my relationship with God. I feel like just going from that, oh, I know he's here and I know, but when you really hit those hard times and you're able to see like he really is here, and he's gonna help you through it. Where I am now is night and day difference than where I was 6 months ago, and the things I was feeling before I opened up and was vulnerable and decided I can't do this by myself, and that I need some help.
Hey everyone, my name is Trey. I'm part of the team here at North Point. I just wanted to say thank you for joining us online, and if this is your first time or if you've been with us for a minute, we want to offer you a few ways that you can connect with us, one of those being the chat room. Now, whether you're on Facebook, YouTube, or online platform, you have a way to connect with us. You can let us know your name, who you are, a little bit about where you're from. Now, also this weekend, we have the Super Bowl coming up, and we just want to say, hey, let us know what team you're cheering for. This is a safe place for everyone. Now, we're in Missouri, so we probably have a lot of Chiefs fans, but we're going to open that up to the chat to discuss. So we do have a few things happening this weekend outside of the Super Bowl. One of them is baptisms. Now, people are not only saying yes to Jesus, but they are going public with their faith, and that is something that we want to celebrate here at North Point. So we get to see that. Now, we're going to be jumping in worship in a second to where we're going to sing some praises to God. Again, we'll have some baptisms, and then we'll have an amazing message wrapping up our series, Chasing the Ring. And then following that, we're going to talk about some next steps that we can have for you for your next step in finding and following Jesus. So those are a few things we have. We're going to jump into worship. We'll see you guys in the chat.
Woo! Also, happy baptism weekend. We're celebrating baptisms this morning. We're super excited to experience life change with the people that have decided to get baptized. Would you go ahead and stand with me this morning? We're going to start our service off today with a song called Ring and Robe, which is a song about the prodigal son and about the ring and the robe in that story. And if you don't know that story, that's okay. We're talking all about it today. We're super excited to be here with you. So if you guys are ready, I don't know if they're ready. Are we ready? Let's do this thing. Let's go.
The captives can't yet sing, but if we sing long enough, they might join in with us. And this may be a dance that's too heavy for those chains, but if we dance long enough, well, the prisons will open up. This may be a shout that those fragile lungs can't bear, but if we shout long enough, the walls might finally fall. And they may need some help to lift their hands up in the air, but we know that freedom's coming, so we'll sing it all along. Sing it, oh, the redeemed now have a song. We'll sing it all day long, till the rest come running home. Oh, all the broken can you hear? We'll shout it out forever. Can't wait till you make it here. We say, oh, 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 oh. This may be true, Jerry never felt to pray out loud, but we'll send those orphans home. We've been waiting all day long. A ringing robe is ready. We can see them coming now. Just like the prodigal, we're gonna meet them in the road. Oh, the redeemed now have a song. We'll sing it all day long, till the rest come running home. Oh, all the broken can you hear? We'll shout it out forever. Can't wait till you make it here. We say, sound of our voices, at the sound of our praise. Mountains, get out of our way. Can't you see us dance? There's a room for you to stay. Oh, strongholds start to break at the sound of our voices, at the sound of our praise. Mountains, get out of our way. Can't you see us dancing? There's a room for you to stay. And we say, oh, the redeemed now have a song. We'll sing it all day long, till the rest come running home. Oh, all the broken can you hear? We'll shout it out forever, and wait till we make it here. We say,
Well, today is littered with that theme, okay? Of, you know, you can run and you can run, and when you return home to God, What I love is that you're not met with anger, you're not met with bitterness or resentment or I told you so or a lecture. You're met with love. And today we're talking about the story of the prodigal son. When he returned home, he was met with a ring, he was met with a robe, and what else, Hannah?
He was met with a massive party, and that is exactly what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be partying with everyone who's getting baptized this morning. Yeah, give it up. We are so excited. Yes. Well, if I haven't had the chance to get to know you guys, my name is Hannah, and I just have the opportunity to serve on the Connections team as well as the Young Adults team.
Yeah, my name is John. I help out as campus pastor around here. And I know as we go through baptisms, these are people who are taking the next step, who are saying, hey, I've decided to make Jesus the leader of my life. Doesn't make me more Jesus-y than anybody. Doesn't mean like high five, I'm done, I've made it. Honestly, it's the beginning of that journey of like, I'm done running, okay? And what I love is they're met with a party and a celebration of that next step and that decision. And even when things don't look different on the outside, it's completely different on the inside. Okay? And so for some of you here today, you planned this party. You're like, I know this is my next step. I've made that decision. I signed up months ago. I've got it marked on my calendar. I've been thinking about today a lot. For others in here, this is a surprise party. And every service, we got a couple people who've been surprised that this is their next step. And it hits a mid-service, and I want to let you know we are so ready for you. If you're like, hey, I expected to show up today thinking today's going to have very little impact on my life. And oftentimes, those are the times that God speaks to us the most. I want to let you know we're prepared for you if baptisms is that next step.
So we actually have some clothes for you guys. So if baptism is your next step and you're not signed up, like March was saying, we actually have some things for you. You know, I know we live in Missouri, so we're always prepared for any sort of weather.
So true.
So you guys probably have like swimsuits in your car, your Speedos, maybe a parka as well. So we're always prepared for whatever hits. So just in case it's a nice day, we go to the lake or the creek after church. So, you know, whatever works. But just in case you do not have those things, we've got some clothes for you guys. And even if you didn't bring your own towel, we actually have towels from the last baptism that I smelled this morning, and they weren't really moldy. They were still a little wet from last time.
We put Axe body spray all over it.
Yeah,
so,
I Febrezed them. So if you
Yeah.
guys need a towel, we've got just slightly moldy towels. No, I'm just kidding. We got clean towels for you guys. So if you are deciding to get baptized this morning and you're like, hey, I didn't sign up, do not let that hold you back. We are so excited to celebrate this with you guys. Just catch us out in the lobby. Just catch us wherever and just let us know, like, hey, I want to take this next step and get baptized, because we are right there with you to celebrate with you.
Absolutely. Well, hey, you guys can have a seat and know you did not miss all of worship and show up later than normal. We are going to have some more worship at the end when we do celebrate those baptisms. But like I said earlier, talking about the prodigal son, and we're in this series called Chasing the Ring. And before we get into our message, we've got a quick video of some athletes that chased the ring, and they got it, and they are celebrating hard. Let's check it out.
Patriots win the Super Bowl. The 50 and the Ravens. They're all here to see the Colts. The Green Bay Packers have won the Super Bowl.
To make the grab, but the Rams now running down to celebrate.
First question to you, it's an easy one. You're the MVP of Super Bowl 54. Where are you going?
Something I wanted to say my whole life. I'm going to
North Point Church.
Can I go with you?
everybody.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he is. Hey, welcome to North Point. Great to have you with us today. I want to say hello to our Springfield campus. Good to see ya. Getting y'all prayers in before the game. I see how it works. Hey, I want to welcome our other campuses who are joining us right now through this beautiful power of technology. We have our Nixa campus. Would you welcome the Nixa campus with us? And keep your hands going for our Republic campus. We love you, Republic. And we saved the best for last, didn't we, Dream Center campus? Thank you for being here. welcome to each of you. What a great day. If you're joining us online, thanks for doing that, whether you're joining us live. We hope you ask some very good questions in the chat room to our online hosts. If you're catching us later through a link, thanks for being with us as well. Today, we're wrapping up this series. It's the third week in a series on the same story in Scripture called Chasing the Ring. And we have all of our notes in our app, our North Point Mo app, if you want to take notes or follow along. And speaking of apps, on the count of three, I want you all to yell out your favorite Super Bowl app, okay? Favorite snack for the Super Bowl on the count of three. Think about it. You're not trying to impress anyone with your health choices. On the count of three, favorite Super Bowl snack. 1, 2, 3. Broccoli, huh? Very good. That's awesome. Did you know they say today is the second highest food consumption day in the American calendar? The average American will consume 2,400 calories during the game today. USA, USA, we got this, man. And I am above average. I'm excited about that. Here's the deal. They say that over 11.5 million pounds of potato chips get consumed today. And I don't know if you've ever weighed a potato chip, but that's a lot of chips because unless they're that pita stuff, okay, they're not very heavy. So that's a lot of chips. They say today that we have over 1.3 billion with a B chicken wings consumed by Americans. How many of you are gonna have some chicken wings today? 1.3 billion. Think about that. That's 650 million chicken who gave up their life for you to watch the Chiefs today. So here's to you, chicken. That's awesome. So today, and if you're making bad food choices today, at least pick up some of the broccoli on that spread and give it a free paper plate ride to the trash can. Just at least tease it for a little bit. Today is the first time since third grade, well, that's our annual reminder that third grade wasn't a total waste. That Roman numeral education comes into play right now. Because you're like, what is LV2? Okay? It's 57. You remember that from third grade. And so today, if you're watching episode 57, I do recommend you don't try that without watching the first 56 episodes. So binge that, and then you'll be all caught up for today's action. But we are all about the Chiefs in Missouri. So if you're an Eagles fan, any Eagles fans here? That's smart, okay? He's not in Springfield. How many of you are wearing some Super Bowl attire? Anybody wearing some colors today? Okay. I did not, and people have questioned my passion for the Chiefs because of the lack of Chiefs gear. You have got me way off, okay? I last wore a jersey during a game on church the last time they lost to the Buccaneers in the Super Bowl. So because I'm passionate for the Chiefs, refuse to jinx them and wear a jersey today. As a matter of fact, I almost wore an Eagles jersey just in case that would throw them off the scent there. But I'll be changing into one. But here's what we'll see throughout this weekend is how people, they act crazy when they're in love with something, right? And that's the top of my notes, that love makes you act all crazy like. Love makes you act absolutely bonkers. Did you know that the word fan is short for the word fanatic or fanatical or crazy, okay? Why? When you're passionate about something, you get crazy. I mean, when someone throws a little yellow hanky at your team today, you're gonna go crazy. If someone does a late hit on Mahomes and they don't get a whistle, you're gonna go crazy. Why? Because love makes you act crazy. How many of you remember being in love? And if you're sitting next to him, just raise your hand. Okay, you remember being in love, right? I mean, love will make you do crazy things. You stay on the phone. No, you hang up first. No, you hang up. On the count of three, we'll both hang up. 1, 2, 3. You still there, right? It's like, I don't know why I do this still. Okay, but love makes you do crazy things. As a parent, I was one of those guys who, I was never one who hung out with like little kids. I didn't practice being a parent before I was a parent. I never babysat. I didn't put a piece of paper at the Panera bulletin board with little slits of my phone number there in case you need someone to help babysit your kids. I'm your guy. That's not me. If you had a little baby and I was near you before I had a kid and you said, would you like to hold him? I'd say, no, thanks, I'm fine. I'm not into holding kids. They're slippery, all that kind of stuff, right? But then I became a parent and everything changed, right? Why? Love makes you act crazy. You start talking little bitty baby stuff, right? You buy them little bitty baby Jordan shoes and you just get excited. Why? Because love makes you act crazy. I remember when my kids started playing sports, I never wanted to be that crazy dad, that sports dad. But then when Sydney started playing soccer, I'm like, oh my word, okay. I became that guy. We were in Seattle, I think she was 7 at the time, playing indoor soccer, and I'm pushing out nannies to get a better view of my daughter playing soccer. And soccer wasn't her God-given sport, and so she didn't score a ton, but I would just scream no matter what. And there was one time she scored her only career goal, technically waved off by the ref, but it did squirt its way through into the goal. And I wanted to run down there, pull my shirt over my head, slide on the AstroTurf, goal! Why? Because it's my daughter, right? Love makes you act crazy. And I've never been that way with pets, but some of y'all are like that with pets, and you need to know that, because we all do. You need to know you're weird with your pets. I have never understood people's affection for their pets. I'm just like, I don't get it. It's a dog. Until this last summer when my girls were living at home for the summer and my oldest daughter got a dog, a little puppy, and it was a Cavapoo. If you don't know what a Cavapoo is, it's half Saint, not Saint Charles. It's a half Christian, okay? And then half poo, okay? The back half is the poo, okay? And so you got this and name's Millie. And I'm like, I don't want a dog in our house, right? You should wait until you go back to Florida to get a dog. I don't want it in our house all summer. But then the dog came into our house, and I started falling in love with Millie. As a matter of fact, I got a picture of me and Millie. So isn't that cute? Did you see the dog, though? Isn't that cute, right? So here's the deal. So Millie changed everything for me. I didn't know I was a dog guy. Big dog guy right here, right? And so now when I like FaceTime the girls, I'm like, where's Millie? And Millie and I bond, I'm like, who want a bone? Who little good girl, right? And I'm like all over it, buying Millie presents, wishing Millie would come visit, paying the extra for it to fly on the plane, right? I'm like, this is awesome. Why? Love makes you act crazy. And what I want to talk about in today's part of the story we've been looking at for the last 3 weeks is this idea that a lovesick father is going to do crazy things. And the story that we've been talking about is about a Father God, and it's Jesus telling a story about an earthly dad to help people get a better idea of what a heavenly Father is all about. And it says in another verse, the most famous verse, the one that Tim Tebow invented, John 3:16. It says this, that God so loved the world, right? The Father God had such a bad case of the so loves, he started acting crazy. Like he started thinking, okay, what do I have to do to have relationship with the one I created? What do I have to do? And this love, this story that we've been looking at, and if you missed the last couple of weeks, we'll catch you up in a hurry, right? But bottom line, it's a story to help people understand how bad God's got it for you. So it's a story, Jesus, the context. So here's what you missed in the last couple episodes is the context is Jesus is talking to people who were considered outcasts, dismissed, not valued in the society. Now, again, this was 2,000 years ago, first century Near Eastern culture, fairly conservative today, a little bit more conservative 2,000 years ago. And these were people who didn't fit into the societal norms, And they certainly found themselves on the outside of any type of faith religious system in a culture that was dominated by a religious system, a Jewish culture 2,000 years ago. So these guys were the left outs in that culture. And Jesus was talking to them. And when he's talking to them, the big dogs in the synagogues, the religious leaders, the spiritual elite people of that day, these Jewish leaders, religious leaders, they saw Jesus rubbing shoulders with the riffraff. And they were so good at riffraffing, instead of being encouraged and be like, isn't that cool that Jesus is hanging out with them? I bet they're gonna start having an upturn in their life because they're hanging out with Jesus. They were better at riffraffing than they thought Jesus was good at Jesus-ing or whatever it was. And so they all of a sudden, instead of thinking good about these people, they started having doubts about Jesus. They're like, bummer, I thought that guy had potential, but look who he's hanging out with. There's no way this is God's son. And here they are, these big religious leaders judging. So Jesus is talking to two types of people. People who feel they're unworthy and have been told they're unworthy and that God doesn't like them because of what they've done. And people who think they've earned it. So Jesus, being Jesus, says once upon a time, there's a story about a dad who had two kids. One did everything right and thought he earned the father's love. The other did everything wrong. Goes to his dad and says, Dad, you're loaded. And I've got dreams. And I'm tired of waiting for you to die. And so would you just hurry up and give me my inheritance? Because I got a life to live. And I can't wait for you to stop living your life. Can you please give me my inheritance early? And the dad, much to the chagrin of the call-in show for Dave Ramsey, says, okay, I'll just empty my inheritance and give it to my kid. He at least should have done, this was scandalous. He should have at least said, if I'm gonna give you the inheritance, I'm gonna give you half now, and then there'll be a 5-year clause, and if you blow the first half, hopefully you'll learn the lesson, and then the next 5 years, you'll be more prepared to handle the wealth that comes to you, right? But he didn't do any of that sound financial advice. Instead, he's like, here you go, this is all I have for you. And it says the son went off to a distant land and squandered his wealth. His is a loose term. It's actually dad's wealth in wild living. Not mild living, wild living. We talked about that in the series. And then it says he even got so desperate when he was broke, out of money, out of resources, out of friends. It says he longed to fill his stomach with food that pigs were eating at the pig farm he was working at. Now again, Jesus was the Steven Spielberg of his day, okay? He knew how to draw you into this story. He's talking to Jewish people about a Jewish dad, about this rogue Jewish boy who's now working on a pig farm. I can't imagine what Facebook post was harder for this Jewish father to scroll past than his son gets a job at a Jewish or at a pig farm. And now he's got this banquet with pig food he's eating and he's hashtagging that on Instagram. And his father's like, you have shamed our family. I cannot believe what my son is doing. He's just doing this to bait me. You can't be more profane for a first century Jew than to do that to your dad. So these guys are just mad. And then Jesus says, this kid, after doing everything he thought he wanted to do, was empty. And then it says he came to his senses. That's where we left off last week. And I want to read it. It's starting in verse 17 of Luke 15. I'll have it on the screen on your app. It says it this way. When the kid came to his senses, he said, how many of my father's hired servants have food to spare, and here I am starving to death? I'll set out and go back to my father and say to him, Father, I've sinned against you and against God. I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. Hire me, make me as one of your hired servants. That's his rehearsed speech. Father, I've sinned against heaven and against you. I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants. Father, I've sinned against heaven and against you. I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like... Father, I've sinned against heaven and against, and he's just going over his speech. And the truth is, there's a little bit of logic to the first part. Has he sinned against his father? and heaven? Yes. Creatively, and well done. He got a varsity letter in sin, okay? Like, this guy did everything possible to shame his dad. But then he says, I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. Which, that's bad news. Which is interesting because Jesus was telling a story of good news, and good news has some bad news, but the good news is not good news unless you remember that the bad news was preceded by some good news. Clear as mud? Okay, so here we go. The story doesn't start with you're naughty, you're bad, you're terrible, but God's gonna give you a solid, okay? The story starts with God is so in love with you. He created you for relationship. He wants nothing more than a life of relationship with you. My sin, your sin, our sin separates us from God's best, and even worse, separates us from relationship with those around us, and even worse, separates us from relationship with God. We've all done it. And I don't know how deep you've gotten in hogwash like this kid did before you realized it, but it don't matter if you're like ankle deep or neck deep, you know? Either way, our sin has separated us and put us in a distant land from God. But that's why God sent his son, emptied the bank account of heaven by sending Jesus Christ, his one and only son, the one he loved so much, to die for us, not to stay dead, but now have victory over death, so there is nothing more that can shame us. And so it was never about what we bring to the table. It was about how wild of a love God has for us and how much God would do to be able to cover anything that comes in between us. And that should motivate us to relationship with the Father. But when we rehearse a sloppy narrative that we have this shame and there's no way we can see the Father, it will delay our reunion because we will convince ourselves we're not worthy of going back home. And that will keep you locked in a pig pen long after you should start your journey home. And then it says, but while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him. Think about that. While he was still a long way off. I love that part. How did he know that the kid was coming home when he was a long way off? iPhone tracker? Like, oh, he's getting closer. I better start go looking now. Binoculars? No? I mean, this is called first century, right? I don't even think they had that back then. He knew he was a long way off because the dad was looking every day, looking all the day. He's always finding an excuse to hang out on his porch, sitting on that Cracker Barrel lobby, rocker of his on his porch. People trying to talk to him, but he'll never make eye contact because he doesn't want to miss the moment that his son might be coming home. Always looking at the horizon. Maybe today's the day. Maybe this is the day my son's coming home. What is that? Is that oh, no, that's a Greyhound bus. And I don't know if those existed back then. But what is that in the no, that's just a rabbit. Every day. Can you imagine the family saying, hey, honey, I think you're living in the past. Why don't you come inside? No. Because if he comes home today, I gotta see him. And it says while he saw his son a long way off, it says he ran to his son, threw his arms around him and kissed him. So the son starts going out with his rehearsed speech. Father, I have sinned against heaven, against you. I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. Please make me like one of your hired servants. And the dad says, shut up! That's not in that version of scripture. It's in the, I don't know. But I would imagine he said, shut up. He's like, this isn't a day for apologies. It's too late to apologize. He says, it's time for a party. It's time for a party. And he says, quick, bring my son the robe. Put a ring on his finger, put sandals on his feet, and kill that fat old pudgy cattle. Because we're going to have ourselves a barbecue up in here, y'all. Why? Because my son who is dead is now alive. The son who was lost is now found. And today was a day to party. Well, this story is interesting. Here's the general theme of what we can look at from a 30,000 foot view, I put it in my notes this way, that when I deserve a penalty because my choices, God designs a party. It doesn't make sense because love makes you act crazy. When I deserve a penalty, love made God design a party and saying, this is a day to celebrate. And all of us are probably aware of the penalty that we have incurred. All of us understand that it's our sin that has caused death in relationships around you. It's our sin that has distanced us from God. Side note, I will say it this way. The father could have tried to control his son and just hemmed him in and made it like a penitentiary instead of a palace. But he did a painful display of love by allowing his son, the one he loves so much, to even journey away from the protection of the father. And I don't know if you've got someone in your life that you love a lot that's not making the kind of decisions you wish they would make. If you're like me, you just try and control those decisions. You're like, well, I'll just take those decisions away from you, right? Trust me, I know what's best for you. I think one of the truths here is sometimes the best thing you can do for someone who's hell-bent on experiencing what they want to experience is let them experience what they think they want to experience. And when they do experience the weight or the fruit of their own choices, it's then that they can own this desire to be with the Father. Because I can control their feet to keep their feet close to me, but that doesn't mean their heart's gonna be close to me. Now, I'm not saying when they're four, you introduce them to all type of stuff. Like, hey, here's all your liquor, here's all your drugs. You're gonna have to figure this out sooner or later, so I'm just giving you a head start. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying, though, is when there comes a time where it's hard for you to control, maybe your role isn't control. Maybe your role is to pray that a loving father would do everything possible to give them chance after chance after chance after chance to make their own decision to want to have a relationship. And we see that that's exactly what happened to the son. And then the father gives him some gifts. The first gift is a robe, and a robe covers the son with dignity, right? Now think about this for a second. What was the kid covered with before? He came from the pig pen. He was broke. He didn't stop at a Mervyn's and get some new duds on the way home. He had no money. And when you're hanging out a pig pen, you don't hide that very well. You can't even go into a Denny's without smelling like smoke. I bet you can't live and work and slop around a pig pen without smelling like hogwash, right? So he's coming home wondering like, I know I smell. I know this is nasty, okay? This is gross. It's all over me. Everyone can smell it. And the father didn't say, oh, disgusting, man. You know we got rules. We got standards around here. Go and wash yourself. Change. Get out of that disgusting stuff. He just says, listen, I don't care where you've been. I'm just thrilled about where you are. Here's a robe to cover yourself because you are not what you've done. You are not where you've been. You are my son, and I want you to have dignity. I don't care what you smell like. I don't care what your record says. I don't care what your background is. I don't care what you did yesterday. I want you to understand that God sees you as someone with dignity. No matter what the big dogs in the synagogues look down on you for, I guarantee you God is saying, I want to cover you with dignity because I created you for relationship. Second gift he gave him, and I've swapped order, is sandals. He slapped him with some flip-flops, which that shows his identity. Because in that culture, if you were going to go into a house, you had to take your shoes off, which is similar to probably a lot of us. Like you just vacuum the floor and you're like, hey, what are you doing wearing your shoes in that living room? I just vacuumed that floor, right? Or maybe it's a muddy, rainy day and you gotta take your shoes off outside. If you were a family member, you were the only ones allowed to wear shoes inside the house. It was a statement of his identity. Father, I'm sinned against heaven and against you. I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like a hired servant. Shut up. Here's your sandals, son. This is your house. And then he gives him a ring. And that ring, man, that was an expression of his authority. That's like his American Express black card. He's got the family signet ring. charge it to my dad's account, y'all. And that's what we get when we return to the Father. Like, we don't get a credit check based on our own account. Our account goes to God's. And he's got a higher limit, right? Like that's a good news. I put my righteousness is a financial term from the first century that it goes on your account. My righteousness is your credit check, not my credit check, because my righteousness is bankrupt, okay? When you run my credit check, it'll show you all the wrong things I've done. But God's righteousness, he makes it right. He makes it in good standing. He balances it because of what's in his account. And we are not held accountable, that's the word there, because of what we've done. We're held to a higher account that God has us covered. And it doesn't make sense. It's not good financial stewardship. This guy should have probably been on probation. He probably shouldn't have been trusted with a family reunion yet, but maybe in 3 years we do a job performance evaluation and we'll see how you're doing at that point. But love makes you act crazy. The dad said, I'm covering you with dignity, I'm reminding you of your identity, and I'm handing out authority. Because my son was dead and now he's alive. He was lost and now he's found. It's scandalous. It's scandalous what that kid did, right? He needed a good talking to, right? Like pig farmer, really? And you're gonna post that? You know what that did to your mom, your dad? But the only thing more scandalous than the life of the kid was the love of the father. The only thing that was more outlandish and outrageous than the life of this kid was the love of his dad. And I know some of us might feel like, what I've done or what I've been doing doesn't fit. God's not happy with me. Jesus would say, once upon a time, there was a God who loved you so much. And the most creative, disgusting thing you think you've done wasn't enough to keep you at a distance from God. He scans the horizon. He fattens a calf just in case. And he's waiting for you today. Now, I want to share one more aspect of the story that makes it come alive to me. I think it might be helpful. It's from a book called the Jerusalem Talmud, which is a collection of stories that predates Jesus, but around that time, that the religious leaders read, memorized. This was like their case study of how to handle grievances and sins, and they had a bunch of stories. In the Jerusalem Talmud that Jesus' original hearers would have been very familiar with, there's a story about a prodigal son. A son who out of rebellion leaves the home of his father and goes out and wastes everything in wild living. And then he decides one day to come home. And the father sees him coming way off in the horizon and runs out to meet him with a big old pot. And he gets to his son and he makes a big to-do, raises the pot like it's little Simba, and then spikes it on the ground like an imitation of a Travis Kelce touchdown celebration. Shatters the pot, picks up a shard of the pot, and says, just as this pot has been shattered and can no longer be repaired, because of what you have done, our relationship is shattered and can no longer be repaired. You are no longer part of this family, and you are no longer allowed on this property. That was the story of the prodigal son in the Jewish literature, the Talmud, that these religious leaders were very familiar with. And this ceremony was so popular, it's called a kazaza ceremony. A kazaza ceremony is when you would publicly let all of your community know, this relationship's cut off. It's broken beyond repair. So when Jesus is telling this familiar story with a twist ending, he's baiting these religious leaders like, I know, get to the good part where you kazaza that fool. And Jesus says, while he was still a long way off, he doesn't say this part, but I can imagine he picked up a jar and they're like, yeah. And he runs out to his kid. And in the jar, he pulls out a robe like a magician and sandals. It's a big jar. And a ring. And he says, son, I love you. I've always loved you. Let's have a party. When you're expecting a kazaza and you get a kawow instead, can you imagine how mad his original hearers were? They're like, no! Because if that's true, everything I know about God is wrong. If that's true, my love isn't based on what I'm doing. If that's true, then anybody could get in. No! That's why they killed him. You don't kill Mr. Rogers. You kill a guy who threatens everything that you're trying to oppress others with. Love makes you act crazy, friends. And if you're here today and you're wondering if there's a God who's gonna kazaza you up in the throat, or a God who's gonna throw a party, I want you to know about a love of a Father who will not stop, who's looking on the horizon. I'm gonna invite our worship teams to come forward to each of our campuses, and we're gonna celebrate an anti-kazaza celebration. We're gonna celebrate what it means for anyone and everyone to say, I want relationship with God through water baptism. Now, those of you who have already prepared to get baptized and signed up, and they already told you where to go at whatever campus, you can head that way. I'm sure it's in a hallway or it's indoors. If you get outside, you've gone too far, but they probably gave you instructions, and you can make your way to prepare for baptism. We're gonna celebrate in just a second. But as they do that, I want you all to know this. There is nothing that can separate you from the love of God. And I know that your sin will cost. It costs you opportunities. It costs you relationships. It costs you time. It costs Jesus his life, but he wasn't a bystanding victim. He gladly paid the price, died on a cross to show what scandalous love the Father has, rose from the dead, now offers us freedom and life. So no matter what you're doing, how deep you are in your messy life, today's a day to come home. And if you need to make that decision, I don't want you for a second to think that shame is a good enough reason for you to stay in the pig pen. There's a loving God who's scanning the horizon now. And are you ready to say yes to Jesus? You just say, man, my sin separated me from you and your best. It's hurt a lot of people. Forgive me my sin. I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. Just make me like one of your hired. Shut up. You're my son. You're my daughter. Baptism is a celebration of those who have made that decision. Baptism doesn't make you a follower of Jesus. It's just an expression of a decision you've already made. And it's an identification with Jesus, that just as Jesus was buried and rose again, people go in the water. It's kind of like a water funeral. You're buried, your sin symbolically, and once the sin bubbles come to the surface, we raise you back up to life, right? It's just connecting with what Jesus did, saying, hey, now I live in a loving relationship with God, not because of what I've done, because of what he's done, and now I want to reflect that love. And in just a moment, people are going to come into the tank at each of our campuses. We're going to have that opportunity, and we want to celebrate that. We want to be the kind of people that say, hey, this is a barbecue. Let's do this thing. And if you know your next step is water baptism, how would you know that? If you're making that decision right now to follow Jesus, or you've made that decision and haven't gone public, water baptism, Jesus was baptized. He asked us to be baptized. It's a big deal. If you've not yet done that, and that's your next step, this is an interesting moment. I'm gonna encourage you in just a moment to get out of your seat, get some material. We've got clothes, we've got shorts, we got shirts, we got towels. They still smell like Walmart, okay? This is great. We've got everything you would need for this decision. We prepared even if you're unprepared. We've got everything you need. In just a moment, I'm gonna have you, if you know that's your next step, and you wanna say, I wanna make a public statement that I've made relationship with a Father, and you can join in line in just a moment. We wanna include you in this celebration. But today, let's just make another commitment to be the kind of community that we're quick to run and be part of a celebration, no matter what you've done, no matter where you've been, because you want to return to the Father. So would you stand with me if you're able to? I want to have a quick word of prayer and then we'll get going. But Father, today, for those who they're ready to say yes to you for the first time, I pray you would forgive of sin from this day forward. They would live in your love and reflect your love to those around them. And God, I pray for those who are here who they've not yet gone public with water baptism, that this would be the day that they would have the courage to make this next step. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. Listen, North Point, if that's your next step, let's do it right now. Let's do it right now. You can make your way to the back. We've got clothes for you right in the lobby, right towards the back. We'll find you. We'll get all the stuff. You can join us in line, and let's celebrate the love of a Father. Let's go for it.
All my words fall short. I got nothing new. How could I express all my gratitude? I could sing these songs as I often do, but every song must end, and you never do. So I throw up my hand and praise you again and again, 'cause all that I have is a hallelujah, hallelujah. And I know it's not much, but I'm nothing else fit for a king, except for a heart singing hallelujah, hallelujah. I've got one response. I've got just one move. With my arms stretched wide, I will worship you. So I throw up my hand and praise you again and again, 'cause all that I have is a hallelujah, hallelujah. And I know it's not much, but I've nothing else fit for a king, except for a heart singing hallelujah, hallelujah. Come on, my soul. Come on, my soul. Oh, don't you get shy on me. Lift up your song, 'cause you got light inside of those lungs. Get up and praise the Lord. Come on, my soul. Oh, don't you get shy on me. Lift up your song, 'cause you got light throw my hands. So I throw up my hands and praise you again and again. 'Cause all that I have is a hallelujah. Hallelujah. I know it's not mine. I'm nothing else fit for a king, except for a heart singing hallelujah. Hallelujah.
to the Prince of Peace, and to the King of Kings, to the great I am, and to the Lion and the Lamb, to the Holy One, and
to find the meaning of life. That you never, ever, ever shut the door. This is the sound of a child coming home. Hallelujah. This is the sound of a welcome prodigal. Hallelujah. Thought I was too far gone, but you always leave the light on. Praise God, praise God, praise God. Those who are afraid to come, there is no fear in perfect love. For those who don't know where to start, it always meets us where we are. For those with just a little faith is all it takes. He's calling. If you got caught up in the things he's getting, let him show you the real thing. For the skeptic still in search of truth, to bring that child out of you. Oh, what are you still waiting for? Standing at an open door. He's calling. This is the sound of a child coming home. Hallelujah. This is the sound of a welcome prodigal. Hallelujah. This is the sound of a child coming home. Hallelujah. This is the song of a welcome prodigal. Hallelujah. Thought I was too far gone, but you always leave the light on. Praise God, praise God, praise God, praise God, praise God, praise God. I'm coming home. This is the sound of a child coming home. Hallelujah. This is the song of a welcome prodigal. Hallelujah. Thought I was too far gone, but you always leave the light on. Praise God, praise God, praise God, praise God, praise God. Praise God, praise God, coming home.
It never gets old.
That was absolutely amazing. Let's give it up one more time for everyone who's got baptized today.
Yes, yes.
Oh my gosh, I absolutely love it. I know that some of you guys here are families of the people who are getting baptized. You've been baptized here yourself, and we are just, again, so excited that you guys decided to come and celebrate with us today and celebrate that life change. You know, if you guys see somebody out in the lobby who's gotten baptized, give them a high five, give them a hug, celebrate extra with them, because this is a huge next step that they have taken. So just give it up one more time. I want to hear everyone just scream. Yes.
I love it, I love
Yes.
it. And if you're kicking yourself because you're like, I missed my shot, you know, it is not too late, all right? We'll keep the tub warm for you. But I know every single age and stage was really represented as we baptized. And here's the deal. Baptisms can look different on different times of your journey, okay? From a kid who's just excited about Jesus being the leader of their life for the first time, maybe they don't have a lot of story behind them, okay? To a grandma who talked to me right before, mentioning some of the things that she's gone through in her life. And here's what I know, all right? It doesn't always change things externally when you get baptized, but it does change things internally. And I know that for so many, this is just the start, the beginning of their journey. And I could not be more happy that they're doing it here at North Point, because I believe we got a phenomenal community, and it is our responsibility to help them follow Jesus. It is not my responsibility. It's not Hannah's. It is not Jeremy's. It's all of ours. And if you've experienced that before, if you're a follower of Jesus, please, 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 what Hannah said, find somebody who got baptized in the lobby, hear their story, encourage them on the journey, because it is a journey ahead and it takes all of us. So I want to invite you, you guys can go ahead and have a seat. And while we do that, I know you watched a bunch of next steps in the tank of people who decided, hey, that's my next step. I know that baptism is not all of our next steps. Maybe you've been baptized, but I still believe that you have a next step today. And what we've got is we've got a quick video from our spiritual formations director, Preston, who created some pathways on how to follow Jesus. And what you're gonna hear real quick is kind of our expression of groups this next semester, talking about Jesus experience groups, where we'll walk through the story of Jesus and how can we do that in community as we grow on our faith journey, no matter where you're at on that faith journey. And so let's check out what a group looks like from Preston.
When you step into what JXP is, there's a few elements, okay? There's a check-in, which is where you just go, okay, how was that last practice that I did based on last week? Each session is supposed to be 1 week. Then there's a portion of the Bible that you read. And then there's when you go into that next portion for that following week, there's kind of a summary. And then some questions you can ask yourself. And then there's a practice. JXP will make you slow down, okay? So if you feel anxious, if you're like, oh, this formation feels slow, it is slow. In fact, if you read any of the literature on spiritual formation, whether you're reading an academic or you're reading someone in church history, they all have this consistent theme: slow down. You cannot outpace Jesus. JXP is meant to help you see that you're not acting like you're following Jesus. You are following Jesus. He's resurrected. He's active through His Spirit, and He's speaking to us on a daily basis. This just helps us to do that.
So our JXP groups are kicking off next week, and one thing that we really want you guys to be encouraged with is to sign up for a group. We know that we get to come on Sundays. Some of you guys are a part of a small group during the week as well. But this group really, like Preston was saying, it encourages us to slow down, because we all go through the motions at times to where we read the, verse of the day, or maybe we read a little Bible passage and we're like, all right, I got my Jesus in for the day, let's go. But then we're not really taking the time to get to know who Jesus is. And so these groups are going to encourage us to slow down. We are reading through the book of Luke. And so they're going to be asking you guys some questions and just really focusing in on slowing down and getting to know Christ. I spoke about this in the first service, but I'm going to throw myself under the bus again. But I've been a part of church. I know the bus is going to run over me multiple times. But I've been a part of church for about 10 years now. And just this year, I've sat down and decided, I really felt like the Holy Spirit was like, Hannah, you have to stop going through the motions, because, you've stepped in to lead some people and you don't even really know who I am. And so that I just was completely blown away by that, because I've never even read a full book of the Bible before. I listen to sermons on Sundays. I've read Bible passages, but I've never felt, I guess, maybe challenged enough, or I've never challenged myself enough to actually get to know the heart of Christ. And so I really want to encourage you guys. So if you feel like your next step is to dig deeper in the Word and just slow down and take a minute and just not go through the motions and really grow in your faith, we, again, encourage you guys to be a part of this group, because it is going to be absolutely amazing.
Absolutely, and JXP is a next step. It's probably not the next step, okay? And so on your seats, you've got a connection card, and this is our opportunity to mark whatever next step that might be for us. And I know you're already thinking JXP isn't your next step, okay? But it really is such a helpful resource. So we think it could be everybody's next step. If you're like, oh, what I really need is help in my marriage. Well, one, there's JXP groups for couples, and I think reading the life of Jesus is going to be helpful for you on that too. There's some of you who are like, well, I haven't even made that decision to follow Jesus. I'm just curious, which is kind of why I'm here today. What better way to learn more and grow in your spiritual faith than to literally read the life of Jesus and see how He interacted with others and how He interacted with people that were tough to deal with and people that He loved, and really, really helpful stuff. Maybe you're sitting here and you're like, I've been a follower of Jesus for a decade. It doesn't matter. You still have a next step. And this is the opportunity in this service where maybe the most important part of the service, where you mark, what am I going to do with this? how is my week going to look different because I attended here today? And I think in a moment, I'd write JXP on this connection card. This is not you signing up. This is just you saying, I'm open to some more information. And I'm going to shoot you an email this week with some more information on that, okay? Also, this is our opportunity to give, and I want to invite our ushers forward. I know there's lots of ways to give, text to give, online giving. You can, snail mail that giving. It doesn't matter. I first want to say thank you. Thank you for your investment and partnership with North Point. We always say when you give to North Point, you're giving through North Point, and you just saw a bunch of stories that have been impacted by a mission that you partner with, of a safe place for people to find Jesus, and then with JXP groups to follow Jesus. And I could not be more excited. I could not be more thankful for your generosity. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's making a big difference. And I met a couple people, this is their first time here today. What do we do for first-time guests?
So first-time guests, we are so thankful, and you could not have picked a better morning to come and hang out with us. So thank you for visiting us. There's no expectations for you to give. We actually want to give a donation in your honor. So on your connection card, mark that you're a first-time guest. We're gonna send you an email of a list of nonprofits that we're going to send a donation in your honor. So that way we can just thank you so much for coming, spending time with us.
Don't rob us of that blessing. Okay, here we go. Ushers, I'll let you go and pass those buckets. We can drop our cards, our giving in those buckets. And come on, after a big game, what do you gotta have? Post-game press conference. And Jeremy's got a post-game press conference for us. Let's check it out.
Well, great week. And in just a second, we're going to get to reporters. Thanks for being here today. Before we start, I just want to thank one of our sponsors, Fisher's Honey. Raw and unfiltered, the way you like it at North Point. Raw and unfiltered. You're never going to accuse us of being too filtered around here. But hey, I just want to take a couple moments to talk about what happened out there today. Amazing. I mean, anytime you see people go all the way, you draw it up, you plan it, but to see people do the wave, man, there were so many people getting dunked today, every campus, every service, and these are the kind of days that's why we do what we do, right? So sometimes, honestly, I get a little nervous coming to this meeting today. I'm pretty excited. What a great day. Thrilled for everyone who was there. Thrilled for, some of our season ticket holders even brought people out for the very first time and people going all in. Love it, love it, love it. So great day. Let's get some questions.
Yeah, your opening monologue today was full of cheesy jokes. I know a couple of them landed, but can you talk about the couple that didn't?
I think humor is subjective, right? So I don't know if it's fair to say it's cheesy or not. But one, if we're talking cheesy, one of our sponsors, Cheetos, they put more cheesy into your serving than anyone else. So we want to thank them. Opening monologue, it's fine. Here's the deal. I think sometimes you just gotta not worry about how it's gonna land. You just draw it up, you let it loose, and it's not on me how it lands. It's on me to be able to just craft something that I think is going to work in the moment. So, yeah.
There was some missing notes in the app today. They were in there, but you didn't talk about them at all. Was that poor planning on your part, or was that an audible you called on stage?
It's not the first time we've missed an extra point, it doesn't happen all the time. Usually we nail those points, but yeah, occasionally you're gonna have a missed extra point. And honestly, that's why I like the app, man. You can figure it out. You can cheat the system. You can hit there, enter a word, it'll give you the point. So honestly, am I concerned that we missed an extra point? No, it's fine. We got the main points, I'll say that. I think we hit the points we really wanted to hit.
We noticed you spent quite a lot of time staring in one seat section in particular. Did you write this message for one person in particular?
Yes and no. No, I wouldn't say that I'm staring down a section, but man, there was a section you could tell, they were locked in, and then I just felt like that's just the way we were going, and so I was just speaking to it, and I'm excited. I feel like that we had a good connection out there.
With all the buzz about JXP groups happening, we've been hearing you've been getting lots of offers to join different JXP groups. Yeah. Any ideas on who's you're going to join?
I really don't want to speculate. It's something I'm going to go home. I'm not making decisions today. I'm going to talk to my family about it, and and Leanne and I will sit down, and we're going to make the best choice for us. You know, I mean, we got to think time of the week. We got to think who's least likely to make me hold hands in prayer with someone, you know, at the end of a group session. You know, there's a lot of things that go into this decision. Not gonna rush it. It's something I take seriously, and I am excited about JXP groups, and you'll probably be the first to know. Thanks for asking.
We've been getting some varying results from our hosting segments. Any chances you've been thinking about making a trade?
You know, here's the deal. We'll look at the film. I'll just say that. I mean, I'm so dialed in to my role on the day, but you know, tomorrow we'll come in. We'll look at the different hosts. I mean, campus pastors, they got a lot to think about. I think that's something we forget. They have a lot to think about in a week. A lot of stuff going on. But yeah, we will consider maybe next week is a week where Connections pastors host, and you know, we'll mix it up. But I don't think we're going to make a big change. All right. Any other questions? No? Well, hey, thanks so much for being out this week. Great week, excited, and can't wait to see you next week. All right, take care.
Unbelievable.